Hi, my name is Antonis and I'm the painter in this video. Today you will see me painting this portrait after Da Vinci. It's a study on sfumato, of course, and if you are interested in this lost technique, let's say, stay with me in this video. I will try to explain my process as thoroughly as I can. Now, as I said, sfumato is a lost technique in the sense that we don't really have a detailed description on how a painter could paint like this. Of course, when we talk about sfumato, we refer to the transition between shadow and light, this smoky, very smooth transition that is very, very characteristic, very typical of the Renaissance period. And truly, it's a pity that we don't have a detailed description on how to achieve this technique. Of course, when I was doing my research on of anything helpful on this technique, I found much information about how sfumato is achieved by painting many layers one upon the other. This information didn't quite give me a lot to grasp. It was too much theoretical, too much theory, and I didn't really know how to approach this this research on my studio, how to really find a way to paint sfumato, a recipe, let's say. So I decided to find the solution myself, to try to paint in a way that will give me similar results to those I saw on the works of Da Vinci primarily. So with not much information, I've started experimenting on using oil as my medium. The sfumato paintings are painted in oil, and soon I've reached to some results that are pretty similar to the original. Of course, the original works are amazing. They are as if they were painted by some non-human people, but the results I achieved were very satisfying, and they really gave some similar similar feeling to those sfumato paintings. So let me just say that what I have realized is that sfumato is a way of handling color, a way of manipulating color, and the transition between shadow and light is we can do these transitions in many ways, and each way can also represent a period in the history of painting. For example, the way painters achieved this transition between light and shadow, let's say in the Byzantine period, which is an almost linear transition, using just the tip of their brush to somehow abruptly almost do these transitions, is describing that period in the history of painting. We have a different transition between light and shadow when we talk about the painting, say, of the Impressionists, which is a more abrupt, more colorful transition. There is a different transition between shadow and light when we talk about the classicism, classic era in the history of painting, etc. So here in the Renaissance we have this sfumato transition, which, as I say, is very characteristic, and it's also a pity that detailed information of this are lost, almost because we could use this technique to paint contemporary subjects, to you know how postmodern painting today plays with several styles from the past, and I believe that the sfumato technique can really be a very interesting solution when we talk about contemporary painting. So as you see here, I am applying some color. Of course, this is just an experiment on this technique, what you see. And in essence, what I'm doing is I am applying the color, and then as you see with a dry soft brush, I will manipulate the color. I will move the color here and there, and sometimes this can be very subtle, very you know, discreet, almost indiscernible sometimes. It's as I say, as I feel it, I am moving molecules of color around, and this creates overall this smoky effect of the sfumato. Sometimes it feels that I'm almost doing nothing with the brush, and but still I am doing. So let me just take things from the beginning. I have transferred my drawing on the board, and then I will cover the whole flesh area with a color. Then after that I will apply my shadows, my facial features. I will paint the facial features, and then I will paint some shapes of light on the face. Now of course you see the final stages of this sfumato technique, but I'm pretty sure that the video itself explains what I'm doing better than what I say. So after applying these shapes of light on the cheeks, the forehead, the nose, etc., what I'm doing is, as I say, to apply color and then push the color here and there, manipulate the color here and there. I'm using the brush in very carefully, and it almost feels as if I'm doing hair makeup. It's very strange, very satisfying way to paint, I would say. It's a tedious, it doesn't go very fast, it's not a fast way to paint. And I realize as I'm painting this that I really do many layers of painting as the theory of sfumato goes. I'm constantly applying color, and then with a dry soft brush, I will spread the color here and there in a very careful, very calculated way. As I'm doing this, I'm also wiping my brush of the excess color that it can accumulate as I'm doing this. And really carefully I am, as you see here as well, I'm spreading the color around. Now, of course, you can find more on sfumato, a more detailed description on my Patreon account, where I have some more videos on the sfumato and the colors I'm using in detail. But here definitely you can see this manipulation of the color. Now, this sfumato technique really cannot be achieved with if we paint alla prima. It has the layers of painting have to be painted on a dry surface, so I have to wait for each layer of painting to dry before proceeding to the next layer. That's why I have to be careful about how much oil I add on each layer of painting. As I proceed with more and more layers, I will gradually add more linseed oil, some drops on the layer that I'm painting. In such a way, I don't break the rule that says that as we paint in oil, each layer has to be fatter than the previous one. So this is something we have to have in mind when we paint sfumato. And you already see at this point how we have this smoky, very transitional effect on this portrait. As I say, this is very, very satisfying to paint with, and you definitely should try this sfumato transition by yourselves. It's really interesting, and as I say, the main idea, and you can see it here, is we apply color, and then we just spread the color with a soft brush, a soft, almost dry brush. We have to be careful. We can apply more brighter color as you see here, and now you see again that I am spreading this. I'm doing this spread for as much as I feel that the underneath layers can accept this manipulation with the dry brush without being disrupted, and little by little I will, if I see that I can't proceed anymore because the color cannot be manipulated because of the underneath layer wetness, let's say, then I will stop and wait for all these layers to dry. I'm sorry for my English is not my my first language, so I'm really sorry about about explaining these things a little bit awkwardly, but hopefully the video itself will be helpful and you will understand what I'm doing just by the video. I've seen some contemporary paintings where techniques of the past have been used by the painters, and the result is very, very interesting. Seeing subjects that are surrealistic, almost painted in with the technique of, say, the medieval painting or the Renaissance painting. It's absolutely interesting and amazing. So I want to say that the reason I'm doing these experiments on these techniques is not just for the sake of painting like them. They have, the old masters. The old masters have are insurmountable. I don't want to compete with Da Vinci, of course, but the idea behind these studies is to really find some, the solutions these painters used, and then apply these techniques on our personal work that can be a subject completely different, more contemporary to our personal contemporary work. So this is the reason I'm doing these studies, and I have to say that it's really an education for me doing these copies and studies, because the eye becomes accustomed to great painting. The hand as well becomes accustomed to creating these visually rich paintings, and this can only add value to our paintings. We see so often paintings that are interesting, but technically they can be very poor. So it's nice to to go back and study these old masters. It's also a pity that many art schools don't really teach these techniques. It's mostly because these techniques are lost. So it's hard to really achieve, paint and teach these techniques. Many schools really don't care about the techniques, and it's really a pity. So as you see here, I'm proceeding a little bit on painting the hair. It's important to observe the reference photo that we are painting, and to really try to understand the values of what we see, which areas of the painting we want to study are the brightest, which areas are the darkest, and how much darker an area is in comparison to its next, and really transfer all these relationships to our own painting. Now, another thing that I want to say is about oil, the oil as a medium. Oil, when I started doing these experimentations on sfumato, I wanted to believe that I failed because on these early efforts, I failed because my materials, my oil paintings were cheap, or they were not. They're not the same materials as the one that the old masters used, but I quickly realized that this is not the truth. If we spend the time needed to our painting, and if we use the right tools, the right brush in the right way, then we will definitely achieve very similar results to those masters. Our oil colors don't necessarily have to be the most expensive. We have to realize that in order to achieve this sfumato effect, we have to handle the brush in this way. You see how I spread again the color, how I try here on the cheek, for example. I want to go as dark as I see on my reference photo that I should go, and little by little to create this smoky effect. I don't think there's any other way to achieve this just by spreading molecules, as I say, of color away. If, for example, I place a little how can I say, a little dot of color on her cheek, and then with a dry brush I will spread this tiny dot of color, then I can spread it very thinly on the underneath layer, and this spread will give me this smoky effect. So it's a matter of spreading the color thinly upon a dry layer. This is the whole idea of sfumato, and again, I'm sorry for not explaining things. Even in my mother language, I'm not good in explaining things thoroughly, but hopefully you get the idea. As I say, it would be great to see you on my Patreon page, where you can find so much more, and you'll be able thus to participate in that community, along with supporting me as an artist and supporting these videos here on YouTube. I really want to thank my supporters there on Patreon. It really is so important for me, and I'm deeply grateful. And I also want to thank all of you here on YouTube with your beautiful comments. You really help me proceed and be more in the studio. So really thank you all so much. Now you see how this portrait has come into a nice place, I would say. Now I'm doing some corrections. You can always do some corrections. If you see that the shape of light needs to be corrected a little bit, to be to correct its shape, then we can always add some color and then spread the color with a drier brush. And now that I feel comfortable with what's happening on the face, I will proceed with painting the hair a little bit. So let me just say that this painting is oil, of course, on a board that I have prepared with rabbit skin glue, and I've painted on that. Now, sometimes the rabbit skin glue gesso can be very, very absorbent. And when we paint oil on top of that, it can absorb all the oil from our tube and leave us with a very dull surface. So before applying oil on this rabbit skin glue gesso, I can either paint with acrylic. I can either paint the whole surface with a layer or two of acrylic paint, and then that way I will block the absorbency of the gesso, or I can varnish, let's say, the gesso, and this way I will block its absorbency. So overall, this was my video on SFUMATO here. I hope this was satisfying for you to watch, and I hope this inspires you to try it yourselves and see if you can achieve a similar effect. Remember that not SFUMATO doesn't mean a smooth transition only. Smooth transition can be also something else. SFUMATO is this smoky effect that we have, and this is the difference that from other very smooth transitions. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that we can achieve this by spreading color in very very thin way on a dry layer, and also that this feels so closely to makeup to the makeup art. So again, thank you so much for being here, and I wish you to be healthy and creative, to be more in the studio, and I want to hear more of your efforts on the comments below. Hopefully you liked this result today. I'm kind of enthusiastic about this portrait and about what I've learned as I was doing this. Be healthy and creative. I'll see you soon. Bye.